Madonna do Carmen, aiutici tu.
And benvenuti, fellas and bellas all over the world. Welcome to another episode of the Napoli Rant. I am Raff Bizz, joined by my co-host, the Vicar of SOVS, Raffa Rispo.
What is up, Raffa Bizzarro? Come stai oggi?
Tutto a posto, Raff. Welcome to the show. Welcome to all of our listeners. Let's get this rant on the road. But before I do, a big bon compleanno a te. Raffa Rispo. Happy birthday to you, sir. Recording on your birthday with the flu on St. Patrick's Day. We don't take breaks here on the rant.
You can't write this stuff, Rafi.
You can't write this stuff, man.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. I appreciate the birthday wish. Sucks that I had the flu during it, which is, I was kind of looking forward to today. I don't normally look forward to my birthdays, but a day off from work, St. Patrick's Day, stuff like that. And here comes the flu, which made yesterday really hard to watch the game. I could barely stay awake for it, but I got up at nice and early, 7:30 in the morning.
How much of that was the flu, and how much of that was just the game?
I think the team gave me the flu. I think that game gave me the flu because it kind of set the tone for the rest of the day. I was out of it.
COVID-19 26.
Yeah, right. COVID-19 26. That's good. I like that.
But speaking of the game, Napoli draw against Venezia in Venice, 0-0. Man, I mean, guys, there's a lot to rant about today. I think most of the show, we want to talk about the game a little bit. We'll award a beast of the match, of course, as we do traditionally, win, lose, or draw. You know that. But I think what we need to start discussing a little bit is the future. I know we got these 9 games left, Rafa?
9 games, yes.
9 games left, yeah. Which are 9 championships that we have to play now. 9 must wins, 9, but I don't know if the luck has run out and now it's all grit and determination. I don't know how much more luckier we could have we're going to get compared to maybe these last 7 games. The stretch since February, there's a lot to say. The lack of goals, the giving up the dropping some points against these smaller teams. Now, we always talk smack about these smaller teams, but then they do show up in these big games. Who is it? The Venezia goaltender. I mean, phenomenal game.
Yeah,
we had chances. We had a hashtag Legna Napoli from Raspadori in the first 7 minutes. We need to absorb all this now here at the Napoli Rant. So I think that's what we're going to do, fellas and bellas. But Rafa, let's just start. I mean, where do we start? I mean, a bit of an underwhelming performance, even though the first 20 minutes we had chances. I mean, Venezia brought it to us. So shout out to them. They pressed, they gave us a hard time in our own area, but Napoli did not lack in chances, at least for the beginning of the game. But we just could not finish.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I noticed it right away. As soon as the kickoff as soon as the whistle blew for kickoff, I noticed Venezia press like hard, and they approached the game like that most of the game, as much as I could remember of it. Again, I was up, I was watching, but I got to be honest, I was in and out of consciousness for it.
Yeah.
But I did notice that Napoli did have a lot of good chances in the beginning of the game. That shot by Raspadori that hit the post was just unfair. I mean, it went right across the face of goal, and from where I was, from the camera angle of Venezia too is very weird. It's like one of those things where I feel like the camera's too close, so like it shows like a globe version of the game. I don't know.
Yeah, they have to shoot it just not to nerd out, but I mean, they were playing in their local high school stadium, and just
right.
Kidding. But the backdrop
no,
is
you're
beautiful.
Right.
I mean, yeah, It might have been
Sure.
smaller than some of our stadiums here out in New York for our high schools, but the backdrop was incredible. So
It was a difficult visual on top of the fact that it was not the greatest of matches to watch. And like I said, in the beginning of the game, we had our chances, but uh, you know, a team like Venezia can't be underestimated. It's one of those things where 1 through 20, it doesn't really matter anymore. You can't underestimate any opponent. Look at what Monza and Lecce did to Milan and Inter, respectively, last weekend.
mhm.
And then even this weekend, where Milan went down 1-0 to who did they play this weekend?
Who?
It was a
Milan?
smaller team. It was another smaller team. Lecce was it Lecce this weekend?
Who? AC Milan?
Yeah, they went down. Oh, it was Como. Sorry, it was Como. They went down 1-0 to Como, and actually went down 2-0, but the second goal was disallowed.
Yeah.
And now they had to come back and scratch and claw another win for them. But again, these teams you can't underestimate. You can't take them for granted. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that's what happened with Napoli against Venezia. We could look at Venezia's track record and see that this is their fourth straight draw, and draws against Lazio and Atalanta. 0-0 draws against Lazio and Atalanta are inside of this 4-game stretch. They drew against Juventus a few weeks back, 2-2. Uh, so they know how to play against the tough teams, and Di Francesco has them playing well, but they have nothing to show for it. They still are in 19th. They have 20 points. They're probably going to get relegated. And these are games, like we've said before, Ralph, quite a bit. Champions win games like this.
Yeah. They
You
have to.
you're going to drop a few points against the bigger teams. That's fine. You can't really drop points to these teams. And, you know, not getting a win against Venezia could be detrimental. Now, like you said, there's 9 games left. It's 27 points on offer. We're only 3 points behind Inter, who beat Atalanta this past weekend. Um, and we should probably talk about that too, because that's a scenario in which yesterday, after the draw for us, any scenario really could have played in our favor, but also it also has a negative effect too. Like we were looking at, if Atalanta had beaten Inter, we would be all
It could
three
be a
teams would
three-way
be
tie.
tied. Right.
Yeah.
However, Ralph, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but excuse me, I did the calculations, and then coincidentally enough, Patrick Kendrick posted a video about it. But if there is a 3-way tie, or more than 3 teams tied at the top at the end of the season, then a mini table is constructed, and the top 2 teams from that mini table are the teams that play for the Scudetto. So had Atalanta beaten Inter and gotten us tied, a 3-way tie, Atalanta and Inter would be the 2 teams to play for the Scudetto at the end of
Right.
the season, and Napoli would be left out. Now, there's still a chance for a 3-way tie, but with Atalanta dropping points to Inter, that makes Napoli and Inter the 2 teams. So now we at least have that tie break to go for us, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and yes, there's 9 more finals, and yes, there's 27 points on offer. But Conte came out the day before and said this is a World Cup final against Venezia, and it looked like the first game of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looked more like the first game of the season than a World Cup final to me.
Yeah.
And
Like which
I'm not.
World Cup final was he talking
Yeah,
about? I mean, was he talking
exactly.
about Italy when they played in South Africa? Like, is that the example?
Well, Italy didn't go near a World Cup final then, but
Yeah.
the I guess I would probably liken it to Italy Brazil in '94, where there was a dull 0-0, went all the way to penalties.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. So Conte saying things like that, the team coming off of the beautiful game against Inter that we were lucky enough to see, and the wonderful performance against Fiorentina, and the positivity behind those results and those games, and just the way that they unfolded. For Conte to say that this is a World Cup final, quote unquote, against Venezia, and for us to drop a stinker the way we did, is not very reassuring moving forward. Now, luckily, we have this break coming up, and then we come back into Milan at home. So,
Some people say the break is going to be a good thing for us. I don't know.
I mean, you can look at it either way. I mean,
Are we too optimistic when we say? Is that us calming our nerves, or do we really think that this break is going to do us?
well, there's a lot of players that are off
maybe
with their
the
team.
injuries, right? But maybe it gives us a little bit more time for the people that we have injured to recover a little bit better, and then come in, and then we can move forward from there, like kind of like business as usual
Let's
before
hope.
all the injuries.
Let's hope.
That's the only thing I get out of it. But I don't see, other than that, I don't see where this break benefits us at all. But I am concerned about, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but I am a little bit concerned of the exhaustion that is completely visible by us that we're watching on the field when we look at Napoli. And then you see all these substitutions coming in at the 77th minute or the 85th minute, and I just don't understand the rhyme or reason behind any of it. And where we are now, and I'm going to reiterate, guys, where we are now, to me, has nothing to, and we keep seeing the articles, but to me has nothing to do with the January mercato.
No.
Like, I don't think the January mercato could have really helped us unless we're going to buy some crazy superstars that we know are going to get on the field from week one and produce. I don't think that was going to happen.
And that doesn't happen in January, Ralph.
Yeah,
Come on, we all know that. We spoke about that last week,
right?
I mean,
because look at Milan. You said, how many times have you said it? Look at Milan's market and look what they're going through right now. I understand it's a market that people use as kind of like a backup if they've really suffered some serious injuries, injuries that take 3, 4, 5, 6 months even to recover. Then you got to replace a player. But all of our guys are out for a few weeks. It's kind of like normal injuries, if that's how you want it, for lack of a better word. They'll be back soon. They'll be back better than ever. And I feel like maybe then we'll start producing results. But either way, for me, the biggest example has been Raspadori and what he's been able to accomplish ever since he started getting the full-time minutes. This guy has almost a goal in every game he played. He had a dinger with Venezia, a close one against the game prior, 3 goals the 2 games prior to that. I mean, like, this is a guy that we said, oh, he's not in Conte's system. Oh, that maybe you need to sell him. And I couldn't have disagreed more. I was like, no, this is a player that I think is great for this team and great for the city. And we're starting to see it now that he's getting full-time minutes. But I'm just over the fact that these Italian coaches have to wait till we are in dire need of substitutions to now utilize these. Like Simeone coming in the 86th minute, just leave him on the bench. Leave him on the bench at that point.
What is that going to do?
What is that going to do for us,
exactly,
man? Maybe sit Lukaku down every now and then. All right, maybe he needs a moment on the bench. Maybe take him off the bench in the 60th minute and let him come in and put all he has, 30 minutes, and maybe he can actually produce something. But to me, 86 minutes to replace your striker, what is that going to do? What is that going to do? 77 minutes, all your guys are exhausted. What is that going to do? I hate to wait all this time to make a solution for Raspadori, to give Gilmore more minutes. Now Anguissa might leave. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. Like,
Conte making 4 changes at once was baffling to me as well. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me.
It never works.
But it's one of those things where we're like, we're usually like bashing him for not making enough subs or not making timely subs. But here he is making almost every sub in one shot in the 77th minute when everyone's pretty much gassed, and there's not enough time to like integrate everybody in with each other. Like you're right, 100%. Simeone should have just stayed on the bench yesterday instead of coming in the 86th minute. That's ridiculous. And you know, look, we can argue about Lukaku because Lukaku for me has come up big in the big games, and he's definitely contributed to this team and the 18 goal contributions, 10 goals, 8 assists. But we need more than just that. We need more than just Lukaku. And if he can't put his trust into Simeone, then obviously Simeone is going to have to go. And we're going to have to get someone in who, let's face it, and as I like Simeone a lot, you know how I feel about him, is a little better. And when that guy comes in, he needs more of a chance. Like you can't just decide that you want to try something in the last second when nothing is going for you.
Right.
And Simeone comes off the bench having produced nothing all season to try to give him 4 minutes to win the game for us.
To win the game.
It
just, but Rafa, I mean, Conte's the coach, you're not, so your opinion doesn't matter, right?
Well, that's goes without saying, right? Who am I?
Right. I mean, who are we?
Right.
We only watch this game all the time.
We only obsess over this game. That's about it.
Yeah, because I mean, we don't suffer here at all. Like, never.
Well, I mean, so when it comes to Conte, when it comes to us not being managers of football teams, I understand. And Conte is there, and we're not, and he knows the team inside and out, and we don't. But these are blatantly obvious issues that we have that anyone can call out, anybody.
Sure.
And when you're not making the changes when it's timely, then you have an issue. And again, we didn't lose the game. We lost a little ground on the Scudetto. We're 3 points behind now instead of 1. Which is still 1 game, so everybody relax. But yeah, I mean, we had a chance to gain ground on one of the top 3, and we failed to do it. So
I'm having a hard time relaxing at this point. I mean, 7 games later, dropping points, not scoring on relegated.
No, we should easily be 5-6 points ahead in the school.
Ahead. We should definitely be. I mean, one can call it overachieving, but I don't care. Then let's overachieve. That's what we should have done. The tie against Inter, I'm absolutely cool with. We're playing the best team. We're playing the best one. The best team in Serie A. And
I actually got over the tie against Roma as well, because look at what Roma's doing. They've the only blemish in Roma's reign under Ranieri is against us twice.
That's fine, but I mean, man, and funny enough, it was both times in Rome. But giving up the lead, that was big. That was big. Look, this is almost opposite of the story we speak of, during the big meet in Ribalta, during the Scudetto year.
Right.
This is very much an opposite result. Bizarre world, no pun intended there. And then again in Lazio in the 87th minute, dropping points. Udinese, scoring 3 minutes later, giving up the lead and not being able to respond to that. Those 3 games were really, really tough on us, man. And I don't know what effect it had mentally, but I don't know. Was Mike Grella right when he said it was unsustainable? I know we gave him so much shit, but was he like half right, maybe?
Yeah. It's easy to say yes, he was, because when you're going through that, right? When you're going through it, but honestly, when you really think about it, I was the one that said that of the 3 teams between Inter, Milan, and Atalanta, when we had that stretch, I was afraid of Atalanta. not so much Inter and Milan.
Right.
And that's because Atalanta were scoring at will, right?
Right. Right.
So I guess in a roundabout way, that was sort of me taking the side of Grella, or maybe being able to like relate on what Grella said. But honestly, Conte's teams, they're notorious for playing like that and winning Scudetto. So like, I don't know. I don't know. Look, once again, we're 9 games out to the end of the season. There's more than enough great chances to capitalize and still win this thing. If we don't, we don't. And if we don't, is it a failure? No, it's not a failure. It's just uh another step towards the future and next season. Now, at this point, do I expect to win the Scudetto? I think all of us do. Somehow, some way expect to come out on top of this thing. Especially since, we had no Europe and this and that, whatever, right? But if it doesn't happen, I'm not gonna blame Conte necessarily. My focus would be more towards like that this is a rebuild season, just like how the season we won the Scudetto was a rebuild season. And finishing second in a rebuild season, I'm okay with. At the end of the day, when you look at it, obviously I'm going to be disappointed we don't win Scudetto if we don't. But if you look at it in perspective, we went from first to 10th to second, challenging for Scudetto pretty much, 3/4 of the way of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could come down to the final day, really, in reality.
Right.
So,
I mean, when you put it like that, then yeah, I mean, it makes me a little calmer, a little happier, for sure. I mean, when you compare it to last season, but I think last season was a fluke. I think it's something that shouldn't have happened either, and I don't blame any coaches or players. I actually blame the president this time, and I have to question, how ADL has evolved in a lot of different ways, but I'm worried about his emperor attitude at this point in Napoli. I liked it in the beginning because when you truly are kind of rebuilding a whole society like he did over the past 20 years, then yeah, you got to put your fist down. Like the hammer has to come down and somebody has to take the reins and make the important decisions for the team, whether the fans like it or not. And I think ADL did a great job doing that, creating assets for the team through the players. Obviously, he's still working on all the stadium and facility stuff. And I think a little bit of Italian bureaucracy plus a bit of ADL stubbornness kind of delays things. Fine. But I'm concerned about the culture right now of the team to become this winning mentality team, this championship-minded team. I think is going to require a next step in evolution with ADL and his tactics, because to me, going from the beauty we saw in 23 to practically failing a season later, losing the best striker, now losing Cavada, and we can say all we want about what Cavada could have accomplished with Napoli this season or whatever. I don't know exactly, but it doesn't matter. When you lose a duo like that, it's that's tough. Those are 4 tough shoes to fill right there. I'm not sure if we did that this season, January or no January. It was just a tough thing to do. So I'll give Conte his respect regarding all that, because to lose what he lost and still being able to be in the top 3 here with some great high scoring teams who are doing well and are on multiple fronts competing. I mean, we're definitely punching above our weight right now. So yeah, maybe if we don't win a Scudetto, it's nothing to hang your head down on, but I want this Napoli to say, oh, well, it's too bad. I don't want that anymore. I want us to really start saying, no, we're going to go get this one way or another.
Yeah.
I think I may have mentioned this the last episode or an episode prior, but I'm going to repeat it again. And this was from our boy Gennaro at Cafe Diaz in Napoli. And he said one thing very specific. And again, I might be repeating myself. So for those of you who heard this, I'm sorry. And if those of you who haven't, here you go. He said, we were doing great. And then we get to the middle of the season and we're flying high. And then boom, we just drop. We just completely drop off in form. And this has been an issue with Napoli for a long time. And the only time we didn't see that was with Spalletti, when we won the Scudetto, when in the winter we were winning these games. And that was honestly, Rafa, that was what gave me the most confidence, what gave me the most hope, knowing that I think Napoli's going to win this one. I was really concerned about middle season, but we produced results and we were able to keep our foot on the gas and, we were able to win the Scudetto. Now, mind you, towards the end of the season, maybe you saw a little bit of a dip in some forms. Team figured us out. Maybe the team wasn't performing as much because they kind of knew the win was in their head already. Fine. But from the beginning of the season all the way to maybe like the last quarter of it, Napoli was unstoppable. And this recent dip in form, it scares me, and I know there's still a possibility. 3 points behind, it's not something to panic over. We shouldn't be panicking. But I think the panic is coming from our recent form, not necessarily.
And it's valid.
So I can't blame the Tifoseria, I just can't. And that's why I'm going to I'll do it today, Rafa. And you convinced me to change this. For a moment, I was almost hashtag Conte out. For a moment. I'm going to change it like you suggested to me, Rafa.
Right.
To hashtag Conte ? Okay. I'm going to give him a question mark. He earned it. Sorry. For good, whatever good or bad you want to say. He earned the question mark right now.
Right.
Because the bottom line is mentally we lost our edge. The bottom line is that we look exhausted out there, and what are we doing in training that is making us so damn tired? Why aren't we switching out the players when we need to? Why did it take for this long to get Raspadori more full-time minutes? Mm-hmm. Why did it take this long for Gilmore to get more time? Like, why do we got to wait for injuries? I understand Anguissa was a starter. I understand Lukaku was a starter. But why did we not take any time to make sure our backup players, because we talk about depth, but we had the players. We're just not using them. So what are we going to go? Spend $100 million in January to do what? To give people 13 minutes on the field? Mm-hmm. Or expect them to mesh in with the team and produce these results and get these W's for us? So hashtag Conte ? For the moment, because he still has the time to convince me. I don't want to go through these 9 games. We start producing results, Inter drops points, and boom, we're back on the road to the Scudetto, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. But I have to make sure that Conte is going to get it right from here on out, especially when all of our injured players are back on the field. Oliveira came back, and Anguissa came back. I think they saved Neres this game. Maybe they want him to take another game to fully recover. But once he gets back, I'd like to see what's going to happen. I'd like to see what he's going to do with the formation, what he's going to do with Raspadori. But something's got to give if we want to sniff at this Scudetto once again.
The fact that we have, I like what you said too, that we're competing for the Scudetto. In between two teams that are scoring at will, that know how to score, competing on all fronts, and theoretically, us not having Europe, should make us be where we are, but also, we're not as deep as those two teams, and we're just not. And I find something interesting in what you just said, is why did it take this long to get Raspadori going? Why did it take this long to get Gilmore minutes and things like that, right? Now, could the reason why I find that interesting is because Conte is a 3-5-2 guy. That's his bread and butter. He came in here and changed his tactics for the good of the team at a 4-3-3, and then Kvara abandoned us. And now that Nettis was hurt, he had no choice to go back to the 3-5-2, and it was working fine. Right? I mean, now you got Raspadori who's unlocked and all that stuff. And I feel like you're right. It was reactionary from the injuries. But maybe this is a year one feel out, right? Now that he knows that this 3-5-2 is working, we could play three defenders in the back with the defense that we have. We could play with Raspadori on the as a second striker, or even Nettis when he comes back, I'm sure. Maybe now, because historically Conte would come in year one and win things. You know what I mean? We talked about how he did that for Juve. He did that, Inter. He won in year two, whatever.
I mean,
But
we still got a second place Napoli, Rafa. So I'm not complaining that hard.
right, exactly. But
Mhm.
now that you mentioned it, it does shed a little bit of light on why it took this long for Conte to get back to his tried and true beloved 3-5-2. Right? Because the same thing happened with his Juventus. He started out at a 4-3-3 with the Juventus. He changed it to a 3-5-2, and then they won the Scudetto.
Mm.
So maybe he had to sort of like, similar to Ancelotti's first year, use the Sadi method and then sort of, acclimate to his own game. And that was also a second place Napoli year. Now, I think the big key is year two. Win the Scudetto or not, I think year two is going to be the big tell. Is De Laurentiis going to be able to get the players Conte needs for year two? Is De Laurentiis really saving? I mean, there's this talk about that defender from Empoli, and his
Ma-
name is escaping me. His name is
Starts with an
escaping
M.
me. Yeah,
Starts with an. But go ahead. I'll get you the name.
Mangianelli or something like that.
Marianucci.
Marianucci, Luca Marianucci.
Yeah.
Yes, he hit the winning penalty, I think, to eliminate Juventus from the Coppa Italia. We're starting now, which is true to ADL form, to look at the future. And I don't know. I historically am very confident in Napoli's ability to replenish. I mean, look at what happened. Giuntoli was supposed to go to Juventus and revitalize that team with his brilliance, and they're struggling. There's another 3-0 loss against Fiorentina this weekend. That's 7-0 in two games,
Mhm.
right? And meanwhile, Napoli with a new director of sport is able to replenish and refuel. Now, again, maybe the fact that we weren't playing in the Champions League or in Europe this season is why we had the summer we had and the January we had. But I expect us to have a nice big summer for Conte, and then it's on, you know.
Yeah.
But I understand the fact. I understand why there's cause for concern, because the dip is continuing here.
Yeah.
And there does have to, even if we don't win the Scudetto, say we have the same string of results as Inter does from here on out, right? I at least want us to show a fight. If we fight, claw and scratch, and don't win the Scudetto in the end of May, then we can come back to these games that we should have won or we shouldn't have tied or whatever. And then we can look at those and be like, you know what, if we just didn't this and that, like all fans do, like all armchair quarterbacks do. But at least for the next 9 games, especially since, really Milan and Bologna are the two toughest teams we have. The rest of the teams are like cake. It should be. Should be
Should
a
be. It
cakewalk.
could be,
Should be.
especially with everybody returning. We could be somewhat optimistic about the next upcoming results, but they're just not giving me anything. Like now we're back to this like, oh, what's going on with our mentality conversation? I'm like, why do we keep hitting these snags at the same time every year after year after year after year? Why do we keep
Right.
what is
Right.
it?
But if that Raspadori ball goes in, no one's talking about that, are they?
Fair enough. But it didn't.
Right. I mean,
Didn't.
it didn't. No, you're right. It didn't. But
You
uh
know. If they, if Roma didn't score, we wouldn't be talking about like that. If we didn't drop again, then But the fact is, like, it is going on. So you have to ask yourself, when, what is dipping? What happened? And maybe it's the injuries and the flow of the team switched up a little bit, and we had to go to these new formations. I mean, yes, Netta's getting injured was a big deal. Even Spinazzola at the time of his injury was a big deal because he was playing great, and then he just, then we lose Anguissa. We lost Oliveira. So these are important pieces. And again, these are pieces that were never going to be, I don't want to say replaced, but at least have people that were bought in January to kind of back up. We didn't realize that all these pieces could have gone down in one time. We weren't going to go out and buy 6 players in January. It wasn't going to happen. It's impossible. Maybe, we got Okafor. We got Billing, who scored some clutch goals for us. Doesn't see a minute on the field against Venezia. But Anguissa does. I mean, I want to know what is the mental condition of this team right now and what happened.
And I also wonder why Gilmore came off instead of Lobotka. Lobotka looked pretty gassed towards the end of that game. And it's like Billing could have came on for Lobotka instead of Anguissa coming on for Gilmore. Might have changed the landscape of things a little bit.
I just think there's a bit more of a liability in defense when it comes down to only using Gilmore. I think Lobotka, tired or not, I think he's a little bit more defensively sound when he's on the field in respect to Gilmore. But on the bright side, I was afraid of what was going on with Gilmore. I wasn't sure. I was like, is this the guy? Because we spoke so highly of him in the beginning of the season. But some of his games, I was, I questioned his ability. But after these past few games, getting some repetition, I feel like he's on the up and up. And that's a good positive player. He's a good player. And I just think, like anybody, he needs time. And this is why I stress, and again, my opinion has been consistent ever since we started a Napoli Rant, is especially now that we have 5 subs instead of 3. There's 20-something guys on the roster. You practically have a whole nother team sitting on the bench, and you're only getting 13 minutes, 12 minutes, sometimes less, sometimes 4. What's the point? I thought the point of a substitution was to change it's not like you have a timeout in soccer where you can regroup the guys, set up a plan. No, you have to make these decisions on the fly. And I know it's a tough decision. It's risky. It's scary for a coach, I can imagine, to say, okay, I'm going to take this guy out, put this guy in, and that's it. You live and die by that decision because you can't switch him again. So I need to know what happened. And I would like it. And if your players, you're beating up your players in training and they're on the field now and they're starting to look exhausted, it's time to make those switches little by little, 2 at a time. At most 3, because I know you only have the 3 windows. Fine. So you have to strategically think, okay, how am I going to set up these substitutions so they all make sense? But 4 in a row and then Simeone at the 85th. What are we accomplishing with that? I don't know. And it worries me a little bit. It worries me.
Feel that, Rafi? I feel that.
But we do got to give a beast of the match, Rafa. Should we move on to that?
Let's move on to it.
All right. So, beast of the match. This was a pretty unanimous decision. Now, mind you, all of our friends in the Discord, they didn't even want to award a beast for this game. And
that's a little harsh. We didn't play great, but we haven't. We didn't play great, but we haven't played. We played worse. Trust me.
Absolutely, but I can understand their sentiments up to a point. But this is the Napoli Rant, win, lose, or draw. We have to award a beast. We want to at least acknowledge a player that was trying, because it's not like all 11 players didn't do anything. There was some good play out there. We just couldn't finish, and this is our problem. But this player, I think, deserves a great shout. I think he won beast recently, but he's going to win it again today. So without further ado, Rafa, let's go for it. E per Napoli, la bestia della gara, con il numero 81, Giacomo Raspadori. Yes, folks. I had to give it a Jack. I mean, there was Di Lorenzo had a great game. I think the midfield, I think Lobotka had a pretty decent game. But I'm going to give it a Jack. He had a dinger right in the beginning. He has been in great form since he started with these full-time minutes again. And I really think this is a player we cannot just let go, discard, forget about, replace. This is a beast. I think Giacomo Raspadori is a full-fledged beast on this team. And I think with him almost scoring and him what he does in front of the net, making things out of nothing sometimes, he deserves this. He deserves this award for this game because I think he could have really led us to this W. I think if he was accurate, it would have been him, man of the match, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But instead, he'll earn beast with us here today.
Yeah, Raspadori deserves it. I don't really remember a closer chance to scoring, and he was in the thick of it, but it was a difficult decision to make for a beast, because Di Lorenzo did play well. Gilmore, I think, had a good game too. Lobotka, like you mentioned, just shout out to Raspadori because he's really shown what he can do for this club and in his career, and another national team call up for him. Actually, funny thing about that is this is the first time ever that Napoli dominates the national team
Five
representation. Players. Five players on the national team: Meret, Di Lorenzo, Buongiorno,
Politano got the
Raspadori,
goal.
and Politano finally got a call back, which is nice to see as well.
Despite of a bit of a stinker in Venezia, but
the team came out the day before.
I know,
but it'll be very interesting to see what Italy can do against Germany. These two games, they have one Thursday in Italy and one Sunday, I believe, in Germany. It's the quarterfinal of the Nations League. It's 2 legs. And good luck to the Azzurri boys and especially to our Napoli guys and to everybody else that's going out to play for their national teams. But Raspadori definitely deserves the call for this one. Or also, a late shout, because I don't think I even told you this. In the back of my head, I was also thinking Meret, because right at the end of that game, Venezia had a counterattack that was pretty dangerous on a Politano mistake. And Meret made a really nice save to keep us in, because we could have actually lost that game at the end of the game. So shout out to Meret as well. But yeah, man, look, we move forward from here. It's a break, like you said. The team as a società gets to rest for a week. The players are all going out on international duty, so it's not like they're resting much, but maybe a little separation from the league for us will do a little bit of wonders, because it's all to play for from then on out, and we'll just see what happens.
I mean, there's a sense of maybe amongst fans, from what I read, that maybe the break will be good for the team for whatever reason. Maybe like you said, just get away from the league a bit, kind of reset, refresh. I'm hoping that's the case. I don't see it personally, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but
yeah.
if it is what the players need, so be it. Take it. You'll have March 30th. We come back. We're gonna have 2 weeks away, but I really hope that they can come back with a rejuvenated mentality, because clearly it's mental, and I believe somewhat physical. But I really hope that it does, give them that motivation again that we kind of saw, during the beginning of winter / fall when, Napoli was just grinding it out. They were unified. They were defensively sound, and we still are relatively defensively sound. It's not like we're letting in goal after goal after goal. That's not the case. We're just having a problem finding the back of the net for whatever reason. Maybe the missing Neres' creativity. I don't know. Maybe that is hurting us. Maybe Politano just tanking shots once again over the net and things like maybe it's a little bit of that. The lack of goals that are coming from the midfield now, McTominay and Anguissa, Anguissa with the injury. When our trident wasn't doing something, our midfield was. And that has stopped as well. So the goals got to come from somewhere. The goals got to come. I don't care if it's 1-0 or 2-1 that we win. It's got to come from somewhere. We got to be clutch in front of the net, and we got to remain defensively sound and not give up any stupid mistakes. And I think we'll be okay. But I don't know how good enough that is for me. I just don't know if this is the Napoli that I want to see. Again, I'll put my trust in Conte, considering what he's done in the past with other teams, but I don't know if this is the guy to maybe this is the guy to get us back on track, instill some new discipline. I don't know if this is the guy I want to start a new cycle with. Not quite yet. The next 9 games will determine. I swear at the end of the season, I'll give my opinion here on the rant, but for now, for me,
Conte
hashtag Conte question mark. I want to see more. I got to see more at this point. I want to see more. If they can recover and one can say, okay, the injuries hindered us a little bit, maybe the energy, the cold weather, whatever you want to call it, fine. I'll take it. And like you said, Rafa, as long as we're fighting, clawing our way back, giving people a hard time, I can accept that because, you're not always going to win it. You're not always going to win championships. It's very, very difficult, but I need to see more of an effort, man, because the luck is gone, guys. The luck is gone. We had our luck, 5 games ago, and we didn't capitalize. Now we're going to need a little bit more luck, and we're going to need to be completely on point, or else we'll stay in top 4, but you can kiss the Scudetto goodbye if in the next 3 games we're not seeing 9 points, honestly. We have our game. It's the 30th March?
30th of March.
Milan travels south to the Stadio Maradona in Napoli to play us. If that's not a win, my hopes will be practically diminished, especially depending on Inter's results. But this is critical moment. This is the moment. I don't think there's no coming back if we don't produce in the next 3 games, honestly. If it's 9 points or bust for me, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Gotta say it.
No, I'm with you there. Just for me, the Conte question that you have, I think needs to come next season. I give him another season for sure. If by next season we're still in the same place, then maybe we do need something different. But I definitely feel like Conte is the guy. Excuse me.
Right.
Is the guy to get us on the right track, and then we move on from there.
Right.
He's done it at a bunch of teams, man. He's been able to lay a foundation for a lot of teams, and then they take it from there. I think it just depends on, year 2 and what happens in year 2. Like I said before, no matter if we win a Scudetto or not, year 2 is very important for Conte and for ADL and for Napoli.
And Raff, I'm glad you said it, because I think that's why I give him the question mark instead of like Conte out. I'm not, I don't want to hit the panic button and be impulsive. We always complain about that. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But this summer, without a doubt, ADL, Mana, Conte have to come together and make sure they figure this out. They have to figure this out. They got to get the pieces they need. I'm not saying you got to go splash just the right players. Right players. Coverage where you need it. And I don't want to see this exhausted ass team anymore. Like I want to see an energetic team. I want to see the switches when they need to be made. I want to see people getting breaks. You know what I'm trying to say? I want to see a well-managed Napoli, and I need a Napoli who not only are disciplined, but who are on the field having a good time. We said it, Rafa, we said it, and between me, you, and Quentin, there's one thing Napoli, the city, has the most compared, my opinion, to every other city, and that's heart. And it's heart. It's heart. And yeah, we could be the hypertension bunch in southern Italy. We get a little crazy. We could get a little worried. We could get a little impulsive sometimes. Fine. But there's one thing we have that nobody has, and it is the biggest heart, if not in Italy, in the world.
Right.
And I believe that. I believe it. I felt it on a personal level for years, growing up, going to Italy every time. And Rafa, I know for a fact you felt the same. Our friend Quentin with us felt the same, even being a non-Italian. Well, no, take it back. He is an Italian, but we joked that being the least Italian, still was accepted there and beloved. You see what we do to our players. Doesn't matter where they come from. We give them our whole hearts. If that can't be reciprocated, if that can't be replicated by our players, Napoli is not Napoli. Napoli is not Napoli. I need to see that again. Without that, I don't know what we're able to produce. And that's my worry. That's my question. And that's the thing I'm going to keep my eye on from here until the end of the season to hopefully into next season is, can we come back to there? Can we play from the heart and just leave our minds out of it? Because our mind there is like, it's stormy, but the heart is strong. I really think we can do anything. We can do anything. I believe that 100%.
Great words, Ralphie boy. Great words.
Great show as always, Rafa. And let's hey, we're the dynamic duo with the most optimism here, and at least we try
normally.
But I also want to keep it real. I don't want to take the high road only just because. I'm glad fans look at us as a source of therapy in a sense. Sometimes we need to collect ourselves. In the long run, I mean, we'll see what happens, but we are only 3 points behind. This is not a panic situation. If we can turn around our form and just get back to where we were at some point this season, we could still produce something. We're almost guaranteed Champions League next year, which could put a lot of money in our purse and help us with this next market. But the reality is, though, we have to hold people accountable when it's due. And right now, this coach and this team have to get back to the center and really start producing from here on out, because the luck's gone. It's all up to us now. It's all up to us. Next
well
game,
said, Ralphie boy. Sorry, I wasn't able to contribute too much today.
No. This guy's on a birthday, on a holiday with the flu. You're still here on the mic, Rafa. I thank you for showing up today and not calling out sick.
No, absolutely.
But we are here, folks, because that's what it takes. It's our heart, guys. Me and Rafa are up here. It's heart that brings us here. Sometimes, even when we're having hard days, we don't talk about it because we don't need to. It's personal, but it's our heart that brings us up here, and we're able to do this, and we love doing it for you, and we appreciate all your support. So thank you again.
I appreciate you, Ralph, and I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you again for the happy birthday. I'll be better next week, or 2 weeks, whenever we decide to have a show.
Yeah,
maybe
we take a break.
We have the break. Next game is the 30th against Milan. I think that's a 2:45 Sunday evening.
Yes,
right?
sir.
That'll be fun.
That will be fun. Be sure.
Yeah.
No, nothing. Be sure to catch the game. Definitely, guys. If you're not in the Discord, what are you waiting for? Come through. Lots of good times in the chat. We have the watch party. Always a hit. So if you want to be a part of that, by all means, I highly recommend it. It's a good place to come out and vent. But until that, guys, Forza Napoli sempre.
Sempre. Ciao, ciao, Raff.
Ciao, guys.